Well, girls, I'll tell you my life. My father and mother was Jacob Scheckler and Sarah Birchfester Scheckler. They lived about 4 miles from Versailles, Missouri. I was born in a log house. Also, my sister Esther was born in the same house. It was on my grandfather Birchfester's farm. Later, my father bought a little place and built a house on it. He lived there until his death, January the 14th, 1884. I was 10 years old. My sister Esther was 4. We had a very hard time getting along. Finally, my mother married a man by the name of John Hodges. They had one child, a boy. His name is Edgar Hodges. He is living now near Kansas City, Missouri, and not very well these days. Had my 88th birthday, the 15th of this month, September. I now live near Tualatin, Oregon. Have lived in this house since the spring of 1928. Well, now I'm going to tell you about my marriage to William Bowen. We lived at Versailles, Missouri, and was married in Versailles at the residence of our minister and doctor, S.V. Sterner, on the 25th of October, 1890. And on the next Monday, we left Versailles for the state of Washington. Was on the train the biggest part of the week. Landed in Seattle, was there a couple of days, then went up the Sound by boat and stopped at Port Angeles and then on to Port Crescent. Was there in a friend's tent for a few days till we could get a boat on up the Sound to a place by the name of Fish, where we started walking across country to Forks Prairie, where I had relatives that had taken up claims. On the way we had to stay all night at a place where they kept travelers overnight. They had what they called a pack train, ponies and little donkeys with big packs on. One had a heating stove packed on, and the old gentleman was in charge. Heading them along there was some people riding ponies. Several men were walking, same as we were. The morning we left the place we stayed all night, when we started out, a man that was walking said, "I'll never see a woman walk this trail as long as I have $1." So he hired a pony for $5 for me to ride. They weren't going quite where we were going. When they turned off, I got off the pony and only had about 3 miles to walk to Forks Prairie. That man had been away from home about a year working. He was going home for Christmas. I think he lived at Aberdeen. I never forgot his kindness. The first house we came to on Forks was people by the name of Whittier. My dear old Aunt Mary, was working there. She happened to see us and came running out to meet us. She took us to her son's place. He owned a sawmill. His name was Jim Anderson. We stayed all night. The next morning, she went with us up over the trail to where her claim was, to her cabin, and also her daughter Amanda's family's claim was there. Next to her. Then we went on up the river a little farther, and there was where my stepbrother's place was. He married my aunt's youngest girl. Theirs was on the other side of the river. My cousin hollered, and he came running out, took off his old hat, waved it in air and hollered. He took us over in a canoe to his cabin. They was expecting us. But I felt so bad for him, for he thought his sister was coming with us. She was to be married and come with us, but the man she was to be married to backed out. So the rest of the land was taken, and the middle of January we left for Missouri. Is that all? I guess it is. Middle of January we left for Missouri. And I'll tell you, I also lived in a sod house in Colorado. I lived in Denver, Colorado for about 20 years before coming on to Florida.
Grandma, would you tell us about being raised here? I mean, you and Granddaddy being raised together, and you went to the same school. Would you tell us about that? How you and Granddaddy were childhood sweethearts. Tell us how you used to play together.
Well, there's much to tell about that. He didn't, now Taylor, his brother, we played jackdaws together, and another girl and boy, but we used to play, I could say that we used to, when we'd have literary, before it took up that we'd play games out the side of the schoolhouse, and Will would play the French harp while we would play snap and such things as that.
Would you tell us about how your uncle hired you to cry before a mirror? Tell us that, Grandma.
Oh dear. My great uncle, this was, he said he'd give me a nickel if I had been crying about something or other, I don't know what. Nothing much, I guess. I would cry. And he told me he'd give me a nickel if I look in the looking glass and cry, and I did. You got the nickel?
And I'd like to have you tell us about your father, what a good man your father was, and what happened to him, and how he died, how that man hurt him, and how he died. Can you tell us about how good your father was, and
Well,
what a good man?
My father was a good man. He was a minister, and was a very good family man. And a young man in the neighborhood owed him a little money, and he asked him for it. He'd run on, and he asked him for it, and he hit him in the back of the head with an axe. That is called a pole axe. Really sharp on both edges, you know. And he never was well after that. He never was sick for a long time. That is, he was in bed for a long time from that, but when he got over that, he seemed to be all right. But yet he wasn't. Then he was bad sick with something wrong in his side, and the doctor couldn't do anything for him, only give him morphine. He ate 14 and a half bottles of morphine before he passed away.
Aunt Leila, can you think of anything that Grandma would be interesting to put on the tape?
Well, maybe she could tell about that little house she lived in when their first baby was born. Little brother Harry.
Oh. Well, we lived in a little rented house in the year 1893, and my little boy, he was a year and 5 months old, and he took sick, very sudden, and passed away.
But remember, he knocked the lamp over, got hurt, fell. and got hurt?
Oh, I don't know. We was eating supper one night, and we was through eating, and he was away from the table, and he was in his high chair at the table yet playing, and he reached over the table. There was one leaf of the table up, and he reached over the table for the salt shaker. He raised up in the chair and reached over for the salt shaker, and the chair slid, the leg slid out from under, you know, and let him down on a hard floor, hard oak floor. And he cried so, and then, well, it was a couple of weeks after that, and he passed away, so I never knew whether he was hurt bad then it caused or what.
But you saw that big black spot under his arm. And then didn't you used to play skip-to-maloo and a lot of things at school and have a lot of fun?
Well, that's what I meant when I said we played games.
Oh, spelling bees.
Well, this was when they'd have programs at the last of school.
Mm-hmm.
And the last day of school, while they'd have the dinner, the parents would bring dinner and have dinner there at the school. And then we children would stay and play games before they had the program that night. We'd stay after school was out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Stay and play games, skip-to-maloo and all those things.
Sounds like fun.
Cool. And one teacher we done that with several teachers, and one teacher we was playing, and we were still playing skip-to-maloo when the crowd began to gather for the program, and the teacher finally said, well, girls and boys, we'll have to quit now and do something else.
Grandma, will you tell, oh, excuse me.
I just went to say Mr. Downs is his name. He was a comical guy.
Grandma, would you tell us about that when you were on the trail from going on your honeymoon? You're on that trail and you heard that baby crying. Would you tell us what that sounded like when you were on the trail? You know, when you heard a baby crying in the wilderness.
When we came away from Fort Washington and was on the trail coming away to come home. We was going along, and I said to my husband, I said, listen, I hear a baby crying, I see smoke, somebody must live off down there in that hollow. And he said yes, but afterwards he told me that it was a cougar in place of a child crying. It was a cougar.
How about that man that wanted you to stay all night when you first went down there? You know, and you were afraid too?
Well, that was that same trip when we was leaving.
Oh, but then you heard, you know, things about him.
Oh, we was told to not stop at that place. That was an old man that he'd want people to stop there to Silver Knights, you know. But we was told to not stop because there had been people that disappeared. And they thought that there might something happened in there, you know. And so he insisted on us stopping, but we told him, no, we was going on to the next place. And we had to cross the river, and all he says, you'll never get across that river. You know, I got to cross that river this evening anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we told him we'd risk it. And we did, and Will he took the suitcase across first. We did across and took it across, and then come back and carried me across, and the water came up to his hips.
Grandma, I heard of an experience. I've never heard you tell it, but I've heard about it. When you were doing janitor work in Kellogg School, and a terrifying experience that you had there. Would you tell us about it?
Honey, I don't believe I could tell that story anymore.
I understand you were cleaning in
Yes.
late at night?
I was cleaning early in the morning.
Oh, early in the morning.
I went at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was doing janitor work, you know, cleaning and dusting. And I was back in a little place where they kept the buckets and brooms and stuff. Went back there to get some things, you know. And somebody began kicking on the basement door. And I wouldn't attention to it. I just kept still, just as still as I could for a long while. And finally, the man said he'd come to light the furnace. That the regular man was sick, wasn't able to come, and he'd come to light the furnace to let him in. And so I didn't pay any attention to him. Wouldn't go to open the door, and finally I heard him run around to the door of the school. That was the basement door, and I heard him run around, go up the steps and run around to go to the door to try to get in at the door of the school. And when I heard him run around, I got to the basement door and opened it and got out of there and just got up to the top when he grabbed me and said, "Now I've got you. What are you doing here?" He said, "What are you doing here?" And I was so scared, I screamed, and I told him, I explained to him, why I was there, that I was doing the work, and so he let go of me, and I started to run. I went to go to one of the neighbors there, and he started after me for a little bit, and then he stopped, and I got to the door of the neighbors, and I just lunged to get in the door, and rapped as hard as I could, and the lady comes to the door, and I told her about the man following me, and how, and so he stood out there a little ways from her place, trying to apologize. He was apologizing to me for it, but he didn't know about that I was to be there.
And who was he, the superintendent of schools?
Yeah. Yeah, he was, what was his name? White. What was his name? White was his name. He'd been superintendent of the school there in Portland for 40 years. And that woman called the police. So I don't remember whether, yes, I think the police was out there talking to you. I remember that.
We used to have so much fun picking hops too, didn't we, Grandma? Don't you wish that we could still pick hops?
Oh, yes, I'll say.
Grandma was one of the prize hop pickers.
Yeah, we had some time picking hops.
And we were just saying it's so much fun to come to Grandma's house. It's so restful and it's always so homey, and we are so thankful to have a dear Grandma like her.
Yes, we had wonderful time those days in the hot car. We sure did.
I think the most fun were those Christmases we used to have at the Galbraith place when Oscar lived there,
Yes, I'll
We
say.
lived with him.
Yeah.
Sadie'd bring the children out and we'd
Have the tree up and have presents, little presents on for all, And the children would come down, they could hardly keep them away, till they'd get dressed to go to see the things. So one year they they made a mad scramble. Got in there and there was something that was burned up that never was found because it was burned up in the paper and stuff,
Well, and Grandma has had a garden every year, haven't you, Grandma? You still plant a garden?
Yes, that's right. I guess I have ever since 1928.
Well, she helped supply us with vegetables, and
But I
really
think
remarkable.
I expect this year is about lined up. I don't know.
We had the best berry pie tonight that she just made too, didn't we? And stew. It's just delicious.
Yes, we've had some wonderful times, all of us. My children and grandchildren.
How many grandchildren, great-grandchildren do you have now, Grandma?
27.
How many, are those all together? You have 27 great-grandchildren?
Great-grandchildren.
How many grandchildren?
Well, I think it's just 14, I think. Oh, grandchildren. Yes, I think it's 14 grandchildren.
Well,
But
You have to count that up.
And,
sometime.
how many two great-grandchildren?
Oh, that's right.
Billy Hoff's children.
Uh-huh. Well, that's quite a bit.
Darlene's little boy.
Yes, that's right. That'd be 3.
been fun hearing about all of your your experiences in your life, Grandma. And so we want to thank you for telling us all of these stories.
Well, I was glad to do it, and nice to, of course, be talking it over and telling you all about it.